us. That's why these discussions that we have now with all of these scientists, all these so-called experts, where they're debating what's the proper approach, what's the right physics, how do we explain this craft, they're never going to get it. It's a hopeless task, because they are working within the illusion. And they are trying to, from inside of the illusion, within the limits of the illusion, manipulate the illusion. And you can only do that very, very poorly. You can develop some technologies. You can develop combustion engines. You can probably do things with electromagnetic drives and some forms of propulsion, but it's always going to be a very, very poor substitute for stepping outside of the illusion. And then you can manipulate the physical world directly through states of consciousness. I think of it a little bit like, if any of you have ever had the experience of astral travel or a near-death experience, you know directly that your consciousness can exist outside your body. Now imagine two biologists trained with the best PhDs and this, that, and the other, and they know everything there is to know about, neo-Darwinian evolution and how random molecules bounce into each other. Ask them, what happens when you die? What happens? When you die, what goes on? And they could sit there and they'll talk to each other. They could talk to each other till they're blue in the face for years and years and years about, the brain and the biology and the molecules and this happens and that happens. And it doesn't matter. They're never going to know. They're never going to understand, because they're remaining inside the limits of the illusion. Now, if you've ever astral traveled and you meet someone else who's also astral traveled, it's going to take like 3 seconds. You say, what happens when you die? Well, it's probably a lot like astral travel. You leave your body. I don't know where you go. I think you go here. I think you go there. Oh, yeah. Okay, done. Because you know directly, and that other person knows it directly, because you can shift your perspective outside of the illusion. And once you can shift your perspective outside of the illusion, you can see the illusion. And then you immediately know, my consciousness can exist outside of my body. That must be what happens when you die, of course.